I am proud to tell you that the state of Texas has never been better.
Governor Greg Abbott lays out his list of emergency items for lawmakers in his State of the State address, how his priorities are shaping the session, and the impact it could have on you.
Simply put, walls work and walls save lives.
President Trump gets ready to visit El Paso to make his case for the border wall, but see why some Texans say he's drawing the wrong conclusions. A lot to answer for. Secretary of State David Whitley grilled by lawmakers after thousands of eligible voters in Texas were put on a list that suggests otherwise. Hello, and thank you for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. Secretary of State David Whitley faced tough questions from lawmakers at a confirmation hearing. It comes after his office released a list of 95,000 registered voters and questioned whether they were citizens. The state's attorney general and even President Trump touted the list as evidence of widespread voter fraud in Texas. But local officials soon found thousands of Texans were wrongly placed on the list. Wes Rappaport shows us how that's leading to a lot of questions as the Secretary of State tries to keep his job.
I'm committed to ensuring high transparency.
Texas Secretary of State David Whitley did not admit mistakes in sending out a list of suspected non-citizen voters, but said there's room for improvement.
I will readily level with you that we can always improve the process. But the data is what the data is, and we were confident that that was the best data that we could get from DPS.
County election officials from across the state say some of the flagged names sent their way turned out to be naturalized citizens. Democratic lawmakers hit Whitley hardest.
How do you define voter suppression?
I've heard the term voter suppression used.
How do you define it?
I think it's irrelevant how I would define it.
Well, you're the Secretary of State, sir. And it's relevant to me if I'm going to vote for your confirmation.
They also questioned the timeline of events, referring the list of names to the Attorney General's Office for Prosecution before local officials could match them to voter rolls.
There was no reason to make an immediate referral, was there?
My reason for transmitting this data to the Attorney General's office was so that we could ensure that these lists are as accurate as possible.
Republicans came to Whitley's defense.
You have had nothing to do with what took place in the past.
If there are any improvements to be made, either in the process in the Secretary of State's office or in communication with the counties or DPS and their data processes, then I am absolutely 100% committed to making that happen.
I'm Wes Rappaport for State of Texas.
Governor Abbott appointed Whitley as Secretary of State in December, but he needs to be confirmed by the Texas Senate in order to keep the job. That vote could happen next week. The original list released by Whitley's office questioned the citizenship status of more than 95,000 voters statewide, but those numbers dropped once individual counties started to review the data. The biggest change came in Harris County. Their original list had nearly 30,000 names. A review found more than 60% of those people were citizens and eligible to vote. In Travis County, the state first listed more than 4,500 registered voters as suspected non-citizens. County officials found more than 1,600 of those people were mistakenly put on the list, and that number could grow as county officials review the remaining names. Joining us for Perspective is Bruce Elfont, the tax assessor and voter registrar for Travis County. Now, your office has been very busy since that list came out. What are you doing to determine who should be on the list and who should be taken off?
We have been very busy. The initial guidance we got from the Secretary of State was to remove people who had registered to vote at the Department of Public Safety when they were getting their driver's license, and we've removed those folks. And now we're working on people who got a driver's license before they became citizens, but subsequently may have become citizens through naturalization processes, and we're trying to find data to help us determine that. And so we're slowly taking people off the list. We've taken about 1,600 off the list of the 4,500 that the state originally sent to us, and we're continuing to work through that list.
I think this was all very surprising to a lot of people. Are, those the main mistakes that you're finding that put people on this list?
Well, the DPS was a big number, and the number of people who subsequently became citizens after getting a driver's license is turning out to be a big number. And I'm sure before we're done, we will see some clerical errors and things like that, and who knows what else.
What are you hearing from voters?
We're hearing from a number of voters asking if they're on the list. A lot of them are very concerned, and especially people who you know, took many years and hardships to become citizens of the United States. And they became citizens, they registered to vote, and now they're hearing that they're on this list and may get knocked off, and that's very unsettling for a lot of people.
How long is it going to take to really settle all of this?
We don't know. We haven't had to do this before. This has not been something that's been required of county voter registrars, and so it could take a period of weeks.
Now, last November, Governor Abbott, he called for an investigation after a video seemed to show Travis County poll workers saying some non-citizens could legally vote. Is this a problem? What can Travis County do to prevent this kind of thing?
Well, we haven't seen it as a problem in the past. Anytime somebody makes an allegation, we have to take it seriously and investigate, and that had been turned over to the prosecutors. I don't know what the result of it is. You know, that particular group doesn't have a very good track record with credibility, but we have to take every allegation seriously.
Well, you've got a lot of work ahead of you. Good luck sorting it all out.
Thank you.
President Trump calls El Paso a prime example of the need for a border wall, but some leaders from the city beg to differ.
I hope that maybe he opens his eyes and his ears when he's in El Paso and actually learns about our community.
And Oprah puts Beto O'Rourke back in the spotlight, what he told her about a potential presidential campaign and what he said that gave her goosebumps. President Trump will return to Texas tomorrow for an event in El Paso. It comes after he made misleading comments about the city in his State of the Union address. The president told the nation that El Paso is the prime example of why the country needs to build a border wall. Listen.
The border city of El Paso, Texas, used to have extremely high rates of violent crime, one of the highest in the entire country, and considered one of our nation's most dangerous cities. Now, immediately upon its building, with a powerful barrier in place, El Paso is one of the safest cities in our country. Simply put, walls work and walls save lives.
A fact check from the El Paso Times found that FBI reports of violent crime in the city peaked in 1993. But by 2006, the number of violent crimes fell by 30%. That drop happened before workers started building the border barrier in 2008. El Paso's mayor was at the state capitol for a public hearing on property taxes. He said the president is right about El Paso being one of the safest cities, but he told us it's not correct to give so much credit to a border wall.
Our wall, our fence, which I like to refer to as call, was established in 2006 under George W. Bush, but not built till 2008. So we were kind of safe before and safe after, although we need to control our borders, and that fence is a part of that whole process, but it's not the panacea or the end-game solution.
President Trump will use his visit to El Paso to make the case for his border wall, but a Democrat who represents the city in the Texas House says the president should look at other ways El Paso works to keep the city safe.
If he's willing to open his ears and his eyes, he will learn that community policing works, that a trusted relationship with local law enforcement and immigrant populations works, not demonizing folks works. He'll learn a lot if he's willing to take that opportunity.
The president's visit to El Paso could bring more attention to Beto O'Rourke amid speculation that he could launch a campaign for president. Oprah Winfrey asked him if he plans to run. O'Rourke told her he's thinking about it and he'll decide later this month. During the interview, he talked about how people responded last summer to the administration's family separation policy on the border and why it's important to inspire people to act.
This is happening in your name in this country. Do not blame this on Donald Trump. Do not blame this on a political party. Do not blame this on someone else. If we're a democracy, then the people are the government. The government is the people. It's on every single one of us to make it right.
That gave me goosebumps when I first heard you say it.
O'Rourke said the public outcry is what made the Trump administration change policy. The interview with Oprah airs later this week. Governor Abbott gives lawmakers his list of emergency items with a focus on 6 key issues.
We can no longer sit idly by while property tax owners are being reduced to tenants of their own property.
We go one-on-one with the governor to look at how his priorities help shape the session and how they could affect you.
I am proud to tell you that the state of Texas has never been better.
Governor Greg Abbott highlighted a strong Texas economy in his State of the State address at the Capitol, and he laid out his slate of emergency items for lawmakers. Those include school finance reform and increasing teacher pay, school safety, mental health, disaster response, and property tax reform. Those emergency priorities are the only policy ideas lawmakers can work on for the first 60 days of the session. Politics reporter Phil Prazen met one-on-one with the governor to get a deeper perspective on the priorities and the challenges ahead.
School finance, property taxes, there is a fear among people on both sides, I think, that the legislature will do one and not the other, right? They're using school finance as a cover to really do property taxes, or property taxes to really do school finance. I mean, so you're confident that both will get done this session?
Well, you can't do one without the other. They're hinged together. Importantly, let me emphasize this, and that is when you have property tax reform, one thing that it does do is automatically reform Robin Hood. And that means the state will be paying a whole lot more money for the reduction of Robin Hood. And at the same time, we're going to be adding more money for education. So all these are tied together. It's going to be a win for education with schools getting more money, teachers being paid better, Robin Hood being reduced.
Do you think you can fix school finance, though, in one session?
I know we can. Yeah, I know we can. And understand this also. And that is, it's not as if we're just starting on this today or after the State of the State. This is something where we had the School Finance Commission working on for an entire year, hammering out these issues, listening to testimony, considering this approach or that approach, and they hammered out very solid solutions. And so we come with a running start, ready to go to work on this.
The rollback rate election cap proposal, capping growth at 2.5% and then going to the election, that's not lowering anybody's taxes. Do you think that people will notice a change if that becomes reality?
The property tax reform has not passed. People's property taxes will continue to rise by 10% or more, which is what they have been doing in a lot of places. Here they would be capped at no more than 2.5% increase, and so you can easily do the math differential. But also, I saw a report that showed that just the Robin Hood component in Austin, Texas, would be reduced by $500 million over the first 5 years. So that we're talking real money differential.
If you all don't perform and do some substance change on school finance and property taxes under the Republican leadership, there might be less Republicans next time. Voters will come and say, you didn't do anything about these problems. Do you think that's the case?
No, because that's not going to happen, because we are going to take care of all these needs.
What are the stakes if you don't?
Failure is not an option here.
Is it okay? So you're 100% confident that
100% confident. We're going to get this done. We have a unique confluence here of everybody working on the same page toward the same goal, but also our economy is so strong, it provides us the resources where we can better address these needs than we could 3 or 4 sessions ago.
For school safety and mental health, what would you like to see as a result out of these reforms?
Well, first, we want to see safer schools. I don't ever want to have to go through what I did last year of seeing children and parents and teachers' lives so devastated as they were. And I want students not to be afraid to go to school. I want parents not to be fearful about dropping their child off to school. I want teachers not to be afraid about what happens at school. So we first and foremost must have safe schools. Part of that will be the process of providing schools tools they need to make their school safer. But part of it will be us, by addressing mental health, making the school environment, the students in schools, as well as our communities safer by better addressing the mental health challenges that so many people struggle with.
Have you seen a program or a policy someplace else that works that you would like to see in Texas?
There is a program in Texas that's proven to be very effective. It's known as the Twitter program. It's the Texas Wellness Intervention and Triage Program out of Texas Tech University, and has been used at multiple school districts around Lubbock, around Amarillo. It was able to identify students who would have posed a threat to others and were removed from school, but also allowed students to have access to mental health experts that got them the treatment they needed. There's another mental health component that we want to address, and that is we need more mental health counselors in our schools. There are some counselors at schools right now, but oftentimes they play the role of preparing students for college, but not addressing the genuine mental health challenges that students are facing. So we need more mental health counselors in our schools.
What do you foresee as the biggest hurdle? Like, what, you have a lot of tough, things that we have tried for decades to solve: school finance, property taxes. What's the biggest hurdle that we have to get over?
It's just a matter of working through the math. There are a lot of needs: school finance, property tax reform, paying teachers more, addressing the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. And so it's finding the right math about how we're going to fund this, how we're going to fund that.
And you're happy with what you see?
Yes, it's looking good.
The governor gave lawmakers their mission, and he's confident they'll get the job done. But will they?
The line that both Republicans and Democrats keep using is "the devil will be in the details."
We'll take a deeper dive to look at the priorities and the prospects next on State of Texas. Governor Abbott laid out his list of emergency items for lawmakers, and he says he's optimistic they'll get the job done. For perspective on the governor's priorities, we turn to our panel. Joining us is Cassandra Pollock, reporter for the Texas Tribune, and our own politics reporter, Phil Praisens. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, any surprises from the State of the State address, Phil?
No, I think people were expecting kind of big nuts and bolts issues coming in, that he was going to talk about property taxes, he was going to talk about school finance, school safety, Hurricane Harvey relief. The new one was he gave a little more specifics on teacher pay, and I think many people were not expecting the mental health component of school safety. So, people were not expecting hot-button controversial issues, and he didn't put any on there.
Do you think that most lawmakers will be on the same page with him on these priorities, or are there going to be some divisions?
So it seems to be that both Democrats and Republicans are on the same page with what needs to be addressed this session. And the line that both Republicans and Democrats keep using is "the devil will be in the details." You saw a little bit of tension kind of bubble up on the Democratic side when Republican state leaders unveiled their property tax proposal. There was and there continues to be pushback to the 2.5% rollback rate that has been proposed. So I'm expecting, or I think we all are expecting, correct me if I'm wrong, just to see similar debates and battle lines kind of emerge as we see a school finance proposal get filed, as we see mental health programs start to get talked about, and what needs to pass on the legislative front there.
Switching gears a little bit, President Trump is ready to visit El Paso to make his case for a border wall. How are Texas leaders and lawmakers really responding to this?
Well, Democrats are really upset about it, right? I mean, President Trump in his State of the Union said that El Paso was such a safe city because of the fence/wall, whatever you want to call it, that is there. And really quick, the congressional team from El Paso and the state leaders from El Paso say, no, that is not the case. And so I'm sure there will be tons of protests for both sides, and it's going to be a big hot mess like a lot of times.
Anything sticking out to you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there just seems to be some sort of eyebrow raising going on. Why El Paso? Obviously, it's Beto O'Rourke, an El Paso Democrat and potential 2020 presidential candidate. It's his stomping grounds. It will be Trump's first time in El Paso. I think his campaign said his 7th time in Texas and his first time in El Paso. So there just seems to be obviously a lot of pushback by Democrats to his upcoming visit, and with that added dynamic or layer of the fact that it's also Beto O'Rourke's hometown.
And speaking of Beto, he spoke with Oprah recently.
Yes, he did. He sat down with Oprah for a live taping, I think, Tuesday in New York City. And he basically made news, gave the most definitive answer yet that he has on this 2020 speculation, and he said that he plans to make a decision on whether to run by the end of the month. You know, whenever he was kind of referring to the prospect of throwing his hat into the ring, he was extremely, he sounded excited about it. He said that he would, you know, be honored, you know, that it would be an exciting role to take on, you know, but he was quick to kind of caveat it with any sort of decision that he makes will be based on what he thinks is best for his family. So,
And we are seeing a push by Texas Democrats to get him to run for the Texas Senate again against John Cornyn instead of president. And so, I mean, the Texas Democrats obviously look at him as the LeBron James on their team, and they want him in Texas as opposed to in Iowa and New Hampshire and all over the country. So, I mean, he really has options, which is good, I guess, for him, but we all just have to wait till he has made a decision.
All right, Phil, Cassandra, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.